We start in the United States, where Democrat Zohran Mamdani has been elected mayor of New York City. The 34-year-old will become the city's first Muslim mayor and its youngest leader in generations. The victory caps a meteoric rise from the little-known state lawmaker to one of the country's most influential figures. His main rival was the state's former Democratic governor, Andrew Cuomo, who ran as an independent. President Donald Trump endorsed him and threatened to cut funds to the city if Mamdani won. DW's Benjamin Alvarez Gruber is in New York City, where Zohran Mamdani has been elected mayor. Benjamin, how much will this result shake up the political order in New York and in the Democratic Party that seems to have struggled to deal with the second Trump presidency?
That's right, and still is struggling to decide on how exactly to deal or support Zohran Mamdani, the new mayor of New York. We just have to remember one of the leading Democratic figures in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, who's also here from New York, did not endorse him. So on your question on how will the Democratic Party maybe change, I'd say some of those leading figures are watching quite cautiously what is happening here. And now when the harder part comes, when he also actually needs to fulfill those promises. When it comes to politics here in New York, this is definitely a shape-up. That's also what the supporters have been telling us here, but it remains to be seen how he will deal on one side with the governor, but also with President Trump in the White House.
Benjamin, you've been in the US a while now. How likely is it that Mamdani's success will provide any sort of blueprint for Democrats in other places in the US?
So it's really remarkable, not just for Democrats or for Republicans, it's the way this campaign has been working for a person that was quite unknown to a majority of people here in New York only a year ago, to now being elected the new mayor of New York City. So there's, of course, a lot of excitement and celebration from his supporters here. But the bigger question is, will he be able to actually provide what he said, what the promises are? For example, he really pledges to tax the rich here in New York, something that the governor said she would not do. Some of the promises when it comes to childcare, when it comes to transport, could be in his hand. He could be able to achieve that, but we can imagine that it will be quite difficult in the way that he will deal with President Donald Trump, who has threatened to withhold federal funding to New York to the minimum required legally. So we can expect that there will be a pushback and also soon a reaction from US President Trump to this victory of Zohran Mamdani as the new mayor here of New York City.
Benjamin, stay with us. I want to talk about the governor's races now, where Virginia has just elected its first female governor. Democrat Abigail Spanberger comfortably defeated her Republican rival amid elections that are now being touted as a gauge on how Americans feel about President Donald Trump's first 9 months in office. Spanberger told supporters they have sent a message to the world. With more than 60% of the vote counted, US media has projected Democratic candidate Mikey Sherrill will win the race in New Jersey. All right, let's get back to DW's Benjamin Alvarez Gruber. It was obviously a victorious evening for the Democratic Party across the board. Is it surprising that Democrats won the governor's races in both Virginia and New Jersey, Ben?
So many said that this was actually the first big test of the Trump administration, of the second Trump administration, of a way how majority or how people in this country feel about President Trump, but also how they feel ahead of the midterms of November next year. So that might be something to actually look closer there. But of course, there's a common thing in both of these races of governors that Barack Obama, former President Barack Obama, endorsed both of them and was in a rally. We see a lot of supporters getting closer there. It might actually be the future mayor coming here. There are still people waiting to get inside here. But coming back to your question, it is a good night for Democrats indeed, but they need to also look into the way they have been talking to voters or to possible voters, and to try to get some learnings out of this, because even though there were millions of people voting today, It's a small percentage still of the US population that went out to the polls today.
It's only just freshly minted victories, but I wonder, is there a common thread between these victorious Democrats of Mamdani, Spanberger and Cheryl? Is there something that ties them together that brought them success?
I'd say it's the way President Trump is leading this country and what many Democrats are seeing that is going in the wrong direction, so that there is a pushback there, and that's also the way they have been framing it. But of course they have to be careful to present more ideas, to present more better options ahead of the midterms next year, and also not to just try to jump on this victory wagon, as probably a lot of people in the Democratic Party will do. Because if we come back to New York, if we look at the results of the race, of this newcomer clearly rejecting other candidates, other politicians who have been doing this for more years, it shows a clear signal that people in this city at least want a change as soon as possible.
Brilliant work. DW's Benjamin Alvarez Gruber, live from New York City. Thanks so much.